pound recovery, will it be long-lived?
I don't think so. We'll see what happens with Brexit. The vote's June 23rd. The polls are close. But on balance, my view is they probably will vote out will win. In other words, they will vote to leave the European Union. A couple of reasons for that. Boris Johnson is very popular. When the good weather comes, the wave of immigrants, refugees really, from the Middle East is going to increase. It's difficult to move in the winter. They'll be coming in more in the spring. All these tensions and issues will be increased by then. So, I see they're hiring heavyweight hired guns from the U.S. to come over and run the in campaign. That tells me that they've got some concerns there. Why are we in London? Because we're just a few days away from one of the most momentous events in the history of capital markets. This is called Brexit. You may have heard about it. It's the British exit. Will the UK exit the European Union? Will the UK leave the EU? If Britain leaves the EU, markets will crash. The pound sterling will go down. Gold will rally. Foreign exchange rates will be volatile all over the world. There's no telling how far this can go.
Well, at 20 minutes to 5, we can now say the decision taken in 1975 by this country to join the common market has been reversed by this referendum to leave the EU.
This is not the story that the market was expecting.
You can see they are called lower by about 7.7%.
As it relates to the Nikkei futures, trading halted for 10 minutes as we saw markets plunge.
Well, the Dow being called down by almost 700 points, 660 points at the moment.
Markets went into this vote almost perfectly priced for a Remain outcome. Now, as the results have started coming in, doubt is creeping in, fear is creeping in.
The US election is just a week away, and one of Hillary Clinton's most vocal critics on the business side is finance commentator Jim Rickards. He's in Sydney this week, armed with his latest book, hot off the press, entitled The Road to Ruin, the global elite's secret plan for the next financial crisis. Jim Rickards, let's go to the US election first. Who do you think will win?
Well, here's the point. Personal view, it's just a personal opinion, is that Trump will probably win. But the important message for investors is that you don't have to agree with that. The important thing is Trump could win. Yeah. Now, you won't hear that anywhere. U.S. media, pundits, elites, it's like Hillary's got it in the bag. Some betting services are already paying off Hillary bets. She's naming her cabinet. Behind me is the iconic Trump Tower. That's that tall, dark building you see right over my shoulder. And that's why we're here today, to talk about the election that's coming up in a couple of days. We think Trump's going to win this election, but it's going to be close. We're not saying that's absolutely going to be the case, but it doesn't matter. Whoever wins, there's an opportunity to make money. You could just make a lot more if Trump wins.
Today we find out when. They're battleground states, the polls are close, but it seems that Clinton could win this.
Right now, the way the polls are breaking, she's going to be able to win it and win it reasonably early, possibly even in the East Coast, which is what her husband did back in 1992. Before we even got to the Midwest, he had almost accumulated enough electoral votes to win. First,
Jim, what do you make of the markets today? Because you've been a believer in gold for quite some time.
Sure.
Everything seems to be pointing to a Clinton victory, apart from gold. So, again, the markets seem to be betting one way, still making hedges.
Well, the most important thing you said, Francine, is everything seems to be pointing to a Clinton victory. If you look at the polls, the pundits, the betting odds, and the financial markets, this election was over a couple of weeks ago. I expect a Trump victory in a very close race. I think we'll be up late. But the interesting thing about it is
So you don't believe the polls?
I think
or the turnout will be greater?
Both. The polls have oversampled Democrats, and then among the Democrats, what they don't tell you, if you oversample African Americans within the Democratic sample, that skews it, because there are a certain number of white Democrats who will vote for Trump. They're not represented.
And CNN projects Donald Trump will carry the state of Florida.
Iowa?
CNN projects Donald Trump will win the state of Iowa with its 6 electoral votes.
Ohio?
Will take Ohio.
Florida? Iowa, Ohio, Nevada, Georgia.
CNN now projects that Donald Trump will carry the state of Georgia. Right now, a historic moment. We can now project the winner of the presidential race. CNN projects Donald Trump wins the presidency.
Clive, across Asia today, we saw a sea of red on Asian markets. All the major markets falling dramatically at one point. Most of them have closed, but now we've got the Bombay markets in India still open, still down about 1.2%. They started the day lower, down about 3%. It's not just stocks across Asia. You've also seen a real flight to safety in terms of currencies out here. The Japanese yen, which is often seen as a sort of safe haven amongst investors in Asia, that's been rising against the US dollar. Remember, that's bad for Japanese stock markets because exporters in Japan want their products to be cheaper overseas. So when the yen rises, it's not good for their goods overseas. We've also seen the Mexican peso, which was seen as a proxy for much of the election sentiment over the last couple of months. That fell by 10% and more at one point during Asian trade.
I, Donald John Trump, do solemnly swear
that I will faithfully execute the office of President of the United States.
The office of President of the United States.
In the aftermath of the 2008 crisis, the Pentagon recruited me for another special project. Our goal was to create a new system for modeling and predicting systemic financial collapse. I received an invitation to a classified meeting at the Los Alamos National Laboratory in New Mexico. Los Alamos National Laboratory takes a system-based approach to predictive modeling. Their computers don't look at events in isolation. They look at the whole system, how the events interact with each other. It's a relatively new branch of physics called complexity theory. You can look at the approach in a number of different ways. It's like seeing the forest for the trees. It's like understanding all the dominoes in a chain reaction. Let me give you an example of this approach. Let's say you have 10 dominoes lined up on a table, and you have 2 observers. One observer, Joe, sees all 10 dominoes from the beginning of the experiment. The second observer, Sally, can only see 1 domino, the 7th in the series. Looking at domino number 7, Sally can still make plenty of observations. It appears stable, for example. It also appears just as likely to fall in one direction as the other. She can study it for years, and she can assume it will never fall. On the other hand, Joe sees all 10 dominoes, including number 7. So one day a force comes along and tips domino number 1 into domino number 2. At that moment, Joe can tell you with near 100% certainty that domino 7 is about to fall. Sally, on the other hand, continues along blissfully unaware, yet with total expertise when it comes to domino number 7. She just can't see how it fits into the system of dominoes, and she can't see the inevitable event coming. When domino 7 falls, Sally is caught almost completely unaware. Well, in essence, Sally represents the mainstream economists and media pundits. Joe represents the approach we developed at Los Alamos National Laboratory.